The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
Hey, you look great.
Thank you. How do I sound?
You sound good. I know you have a little hoarse in your throat. I want to make sure that we say hello and welcome to everybody. I'm Catherine White,
I'm Fennell Norton.
and we're here to give you a badass program. And what we like to do, if you're new to the show, we love to dance in and start the vibe. And today, we talk about, I'll let you move forward on this, but we are somebody. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are somebody. Should I give them a little bit about
Yeah.
why we chose this? So, of course, we know that Reverend Jesse Jackson passed away, and we were really moved by that. We really felt some kind of way, like something really deep was going to be missing. And we started to see things on TV. You started Googling things and remembering what it was like when we were first really introduced to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling some kind of way about who's going to pick up that torch and sort of carry it on. But there is so much still to see and so much still to learn from. And so I think the video that you chose today really sets the tone for where we go from here.
Yeah, and I think when we say we'll be dancing into Bruno Mars' "Count on Me," a little mashup with some things, because our show today is really how we count on each other, how we come together in community. Our guest today, especially when you talk about what's happening with ICE and people being rounded up in concentration camps. I mean, really, we have to count on each other right now. It's so important. And when we look at immigrants, it is I am somebody. We are all somebody. And Jesse Jackson reminded of that to us. So I'm excited to open up the show. And Dennis, if you want to cue up our dances.
When you'll be there, 'cause that's what friends are supposed to do.
That's what friends are supposed to do. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's really beautiful. And I think that it's perfect for the moment when we see people putting their bodies, their resources to take care of other people in their neighborhoods and in their communities. And I think the song is perfect and appropriate for what we're talking about today. Um, and how we fill the gaps with the loss of someone like Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, that's where I went all rainbow on
You
today.
did.
Went on
You
rainbow.
did.
And it's funny because you and I always talk about this, like trying to figure out our way out of this box. Like I think, we talk every day, it seems. And one of those is what we've come across is always the C word. It is really community, the folks showing up, people showing up for each other. And right now, more than we always say it, but it's true more than ever. But Jesse Jackson had this vision about that coming out from the Dr. King, and you had talked so eloquently and emotionally about thinking about here was a man who was with King on the balcony when he was shot.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
interesting to watch. We don't think about these things. Maybe sometimes it's just because you get older and you just think about things differently. But he
Right.
was standing on the balcony, and this was before Dr. King was assassinated. But he was standing there. Then there's other pictures of him. They're close together, whispering. They had a really interesting relationship. They didn't always agree, and
Right.
nobody ever always agrees on everything.
Good
But
lesson.
exactly, but he left in 1971, where he started Push. And then he sort of merged it with another nonprofit. So it was the Rainbow Coalition, and then he became the National Rainbow Coalition in 1984. And that was on his own, of course, after King's death. But
Right.
then he went on to run for president 2 times, right?
Times,
And,
right.
and you just wonder how we think about that today. Before Shirley Chisholm, then after we came Reverend Jackson. And we just sort of forget these things. And this is just why
Yeah.
history is so important and what brings us back to sort of think
He
about.
he didn't forget, did he though?
No, he didn't forget. But
He
you know
showed
what?
up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he showed up, and just imagine the courage that it takes to do that. You have your people who've always been with you, but they're not always supporting you in these endeavors.
Right.
But yet you have the courage to say, I'm going to break from the party. They don't think that I should do this, but I am going to do it. And I think that even though he didn't win, he still came out on top. And the platform that he had after that is why we are talking about him today.
Exactly, because in this moment we talk about coalition building and what's scarier to the MAGA kind of people, the white supremacy we see, the cruelty that could be identified everywhere now when we talk about this today, and we're talking about ICE and what the impact on families everywhere, is that bringing together like-minded people with those same values, white, black, and you know, Hispanic, everything together is the scariest thing for people in this kind of power. And once they see us together, they like to break us by using these kind of triggers. So I think we keep that in mind. And I tell you that somebody was telling a story about him, like in his 80s, showing up on the line somewhere to march. And he goes, yeah, of course I'm here. They're like, Reverend, sit down. He's like, no. And I think he also taught us about showing up and, you know, run, Jesse, run, all these things now. I think going back in the past, like we always like to, brings us forward. So with that, I think we want to get to the show and our great guests, but I'll give you the last word before we start things up because, well, let's give you the last word because let's talk real quick about the Supreme Court. There's the Virginia Supreme Court. The news, did you hear it today? The Virginia news. Want to talk real quick?
Well, I don't know if I have the latest news from this morning, but if there's
Right,
something later, but we know that it went back to the court and they turned
right.
us down again. They said no. And so now it has to go back to the Supreme Court. So I think the Republicans are just doing anything to stop us, but we're
Yeah,
not stopping.
we're not stopping. That's
We
what
are
I
not
want to hear.
stopping. We are continuing. But I wanted to just share something from Jesse Jackson, who did
Okay.
just show up sometimes when people didn't think that he would show up. It's a really wonderful article in the Atlantic. If people get a chance to read it, we'll get it in the chat so people can read it. But here's one of the things that he said, and I think it's just so perfectly appropriate for this moment with all of us trying to figure out what we do and how we move forward. He says, "We who are giants must stop having grasshopper complexes and grasshopper dreams. We are not grasshoppers."
No, my grasshopper. Wash on, wash off, right? Yes, so great. With that, I want to open the show up and we will be talking about the two Supreme Court decisions because one from the high road said tariffs, Trump's tariffs are no go. How about that? The economy, Trump's what, you know, there's a lot to say that he's not delivering. And then the Virginia Supreme Court, we know this case will be decided. So stay tuned because this was a small court in Tazewell again for the Virginia redistricting amendment. That's what we're talking about. It's for the nation what we're doing. So we will have a whole section on the Yes campaign because we haven't forgot about it. But today we're so glad to have you because you are on the Friday Power Lunch. I'm your host, Catherine White, and your host, Vanell Norton over here. Yay. And it's February 20th. It's hard to believe that, but it is. And it's crossover in the Virginia General Assembly. If you have anything to say about the bills, put them in the chat. This is a friendly community. Use the chat to sort of catch up, spread your good share resources. But if you're nasty, we'll kick your butt out. And thank you to our patrons in the room. If you're in the room, thank you. I'm going to kiss the cup because it's nice and warm, but we just thank you to be a patron, be a member of our community. February is still a hot month. So why don't you think about joining? $5, $10, $25 a month. You support Badass Women and the crew up there. They come every week. They help all week long, and it really helps our work. Thank you for that. Today, we are on episode 7. Say it again. We are somebody. Mutual aid, moral courage, and the meaning of belonging. So we're so excited to talk about that concept. We have a special guest here, Patricia Bracknell. You may have heard about her. She really is an amazing woman. And here she has some really great award to talk about. I can't wait to bring her up. She is the founder and CEO of the Chamber of Hispanic Progress in Hampton Roads. We also will have Antoine Seawright. He's back. He's our guy, the Democratic strategist. He is the CEO and founder of Blueprint Strategy. We look forward to talking to Antoine. And lastly, something very special to my heart, I have my heart on today, is Jane Amon. She is somebody that was in my life, a very important young lady who was a neighbor. Her parents were great friends and dear friends, and they have now moved to Florida. And she's I want to call her Dr. Jane Amos here, and she's going to run for a seat in Florida that's flippable, friends. It is flippable. It's red right now. We're going to flip House District 37 blue. That's our jam, right? So I'm so excited that Dr. Jane Amon is here to be with us, and we're going to find out how we can help Jane, run, and win. So with that said, the Vote Yes campaign, Robin Warren is going to keep us up to date because we're not stopping. We're going to continue the fight. Yeah, I'm not concerned about that little lawsuit, everybody. Let's move on. And so I'm going to say we're going to get started. Vanell, I'll see you on the other side.
All righty then.
All righty then. That was a lot, but I'm really excited. Let's bring up our first guest. I know that she is like so excited to be here as well because she has so much to talk about what's going on. Hello, Patricia Bracknell. You are the founder and CEO of the Chamber of Hispanic Progress in the Hampton Roads coastal area. We really wanted to be connected with you with everything going on when people are terrified in their communities about what ICE is doing in all across the nation, but specifically, let's talk about what you're seeing in Virginia. But before we get there, let's talk about you. You have such a great story, how you got into this work, and it has to do with your heart, and your heart is very big and very special. Let's start there.
Yes, ladies, thank you so much for inviting me back. This is my second time being in the Power Lunch, and I love connecting with everyone. I love the power. I love I'm ready again. You guys give me so much nurture into my spirit and my heart. And yeah, I got into this type of work because in 2019, June 29, I had a heart attack. And so due to stress, I decided that I was going to step away from the things that were stressing me the most and select the things that I wanted to be stressed about. And that was going back to help my community. And I opened this organization, this nonprofit, to pretty much focus on the growth of the Latino and Hispanic women in community overall, based on health and health access. I'm privileged. I had, couple of insurance policies, the health insurance, they helped me get through the process, but that's not the case for everyone in mostly on the underserved Latino and Hispanic communities. So that's how I got started into this.
Yeah, and you're being recognized today, and you told us in the green.
Yeah, I'm wearing red.
You're wearing red because I think it, yeah. So tell us about that. You've been honored, and please don't brag on yourself because it's so important.
So last year I was awarded the American Heart Association FIERS Award, which is for someone that fights to integrate communities into health access services.
Awesome.
And so this year I've been nominated for the Women of Impact, which is somebody that works in impacting the life of others through the service that I do.
Yes, and let's go there now because I know we don't have you for a long time. You have a big day down there. And what we wanted to bring is talk about the ICE aftermath, like caring for the families in the wake of the enforcement. Could you update everybody in the room? Because let me tell you, this room has been showing up. We have back channels to try to help with immigrant services and helping our neighbors. So tell us about what you see going on, especially, you are in the Chamber of Commerce. So you're talking about business, family, neighborhoods, and then also the real crisis. So tell us about what that looks like for you. What's going on?
First of all, I want to thank everyone in their community that has been so wonderful and supporting and continue to support us, because initially, we're a year into this horrible situation with the administration right now, and no one was believing that was happening in the communities, first of all, and it's been happening even before Trump took office. It started and pumping those people that have these tendencies to be abusive towards our community. And so what I'm seeing a lot is the following, and I appreciate all the effort, okay? So don't take me wrong when I say this. What I'm dealing with mostly, and I had to have a talk with myself and realize that I cannot stop ICE and ICE practices. They're overpowering our communities. They have guns. They have, they're violent. They're come to communities in caravans of many to pick up people. So the aftermath of what is happening, what is left with the trauma with the families, the cases where they take the main breadwinners out of the equation and left children behind, or left spouses with young children. That's what I'm dealing with, the aftermath of that. And we are seeing it, but we haven't seen the worst of it yet, because we're still kind of in the beginning of the impact. Believe it or not, the most resources that are needed right now are for housing and legal services. And so I'm focusing on trying to gain access to funding to continue helping people and keeping them from being homeless. So I can cite many cases that I have going on right now, but I do want to know what the questions from the audience are in order to better serve the conversation, because I think that sometimes in
Yeah.
positions like myself, we tend to forget that our needs, but we think that we know what those needs are. And sometimes we don't. Like the community has transportation needs, food, housing, trauma, childcare. You know, I have, out of all of these people that have been removed from my area of responsibility, we have only been able to save one. One.
What do you mean by that? Can you explain?
By mean that we were able to get legal assistance in a weekend.
Okay.
To get him away from being, they had him already, this father of one that a child has some handicap issues, was able to get rescued from the last port before he was deported.
Oh my gosh. Right. Got it.
So that was, but imagine just one out of thousands.
Right.
And
Right.
it's because I was testing a theory of mine to see if, in fact, if we set up a legal approach to helping in the weekends, having somebody available on the weekends, if that would really be helpful. And that
Yeah.
made the difference. That made the difference. And
Got
so
it.
so now we have, you know, I've tested a theory. Now we have we learned from this process. So I want to take questions.
Well, we can't do that. That's not part of our Run It show today. Meaning that, yes, we can do that. We can do that in the after chat, but we're not set up for that format today. So I understand. And so I think that would be really fantastic if you can come back. But I think what people wanted to know is how they can help if there is a way to donate. And you're saying down in your area for the legal aid. So the ACLU and different groups, like, so in the coordinating, when people are, let's just say, picked up, then when they sort of contact you for legal services and you're able to sort of try to connect them, is that what you're saying that you're trying to do? That's your sweet spot of helping, or you're just trying to figure out where people need the help and connect them to the help?
Well, we can connect them.
Yes.
And I do work with some of the legal resources here, but they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed because everyone qualifies for the free assistance, right? And so they're overwhelmed.
Right.
So my goal is to get our own fund to retain attorneys that are available on the weekends. Because what we've seen is that ICE goes and picks up family members from Thursday, Friday, or even Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. And they have to hold them for 72 hours. So those 72 hours, if you picked up on a Wednesday, then those 72 hours are done on a Thursday, on a Friday or Saturday. And then you don't have legal representation for these people. And we're talking about like 99.9% of these families are not criminals.
Right.
So
Right.
Tested the theory, it works. If we can get someone working in the weekend, we have legal representation for them, that we can just retain them enough to where they can then gain their own legal representation through their family members, through their friends. But that cost us, you know, the 1% that we were able to rescue for the initial rescue was $2,600.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I can't imagine the legal part of this. Like you said, you hear about some of those successes, you know, and so on. But on the ground there, we'll just wrap up with the idea when we talk about mutual aid. I mean, it takes courage. You see people participate in all different ways. And I know that sometimes people that are new to this, just starting up, may actually not be as helpful as they seem to want to be, because maybe they're not tethered to the community or the Hispanic community. So in the sense of trying to deliver aid and help where people can, privilege can put their bodies on the line and be out there, like we showed, making human change,
I know,
showing
that's
up, right?
amazing.
But
Yes.
there's that. And then, so then there's also where legal help is needed. And, you know, we can put some links in there. People want to donate to that. But if you want to talk about that, to wrap up, about like in the sense of activists, our best way that we can help some of us that are not right down in the Hampton Roads area, or some of us that are basically, you know, trying to show up at protests or showing up. Some people are court watchers, you know, but in the sense of kind of getting in each other's lanes, I think there's sometimes people may
Yes.
try to do
Yes.
good, try to think they're doing good, but they're not. Can you talk about that real
Yes.
quick? We don't want to
Yes.
dwell on that, but let's talk about it.
Yes, I don't, like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes when it comes to that. And I was talking to a young lady yesterday. They called me that they wanted me to be a guest speaker, and they're telling me what they're doing. And I think this is great when anybody takes an initiative to help someone else. That's what we're here for. But sometimes you just have to ask those well culturally knowledge communities, organizations like mine, what is this being needed?
What's
because
being
because I am at the beginning of their crisis, right? With
Right.
food, housing
Food,
resources,
housing. Mhm.
and predatory lenders that are trying to take their houses away.
Oh
Their
my. Mhm.
vehicles, they're being taken away by ICE, that they're taking the property and we can't recover them. You know, any type of work that we can do to avoid that. The legal fund is one of the most needed, because you're
Yeah.
first supposed to concentrate on rescuing the person that is being taken away. So that is my focus right now, is in creating
so
a legal
important.
fund where I can contract a firm to be of assistance in rescue.
Okay.
So I have a family that has the husband was taken away, dropping off their child to school, and now the spouse is left with 4 children under 8 to provide.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And
That's
so
just
while she
heartbreaking.
was providing with assistance before, like how does Patricia help and take over in understanding the trauma that they're going through, but also complementing the assistance they need so they're not homeless.
Yeah,
And
you know,
so,
the aftermath, sorry to interrupt, but the aftermath of what you're getting at is what we're not sort of talking about in the news.
yes,
Like I was wondering about that,
exactly.
because people, our folks and our neighbors in the community, they have houses, cars, they're like, they're part of our community. And then when they're being taken away, it reminds me like when you saw people removed from their homes, like during the early days of, you know, with the Nazis in Germany, all those vacated properties went to somebody. It's almost like the government is not respectful or seizing all this property, and it's awful. Like what is happening to people? So I am so grateful for your work, and I know you need to get going to your event. Thank you for being here. And could you, where can people donate to help you? Do you have the link that you can put in the
Yes,
chat or send to me? I
yes,
can
I
do
think.
it later. We don't have to do it right now.
Yes,
When you're
okay.
sitting there,
Yes,
do that.
please. And
Yes.
donations cannot just, if you don't feel comfortable donating, you know, monetarily, you can send us gift cards for food. You can send us
That's a great idea.
anything that you can provide for families. Just think about those in need, and someone that is leaving they're being kicked out in you know,
Yes.
diapers, all of those
Everything.
things that we don't think about, because I don't have children anymore, but I see the need. Like tonight we're delivering about 60 boxes of food to 60 very needed families. And so
Yes.
anything, but
Thank you.
it's easier to fund it through the website, because then you get a receipt saying that you get a receipt for your
Yes,
taxes
of
and
course.
all of that.
Well, thank you, Patricia Bracknell. You're awesome. And
Thank you,
many
guys.
blessings upon your work, and we'll stay in touch, and thank you so much for being here. I know our community really cares, and because
I know you guys do.
we are somebody, we like to tell people, and if we live by Jesse Jackson's word that I am somebody, everybody is all these people are human beings being treated this way. And this is where America is going to have to really, this kind of sin on that, what they're doing to people. And they're not living up to any kind of humane treatment of anybody, or even how we look at people. So thank you for being here. And we'll
Thank you for having me.
Yes, please, everybody, if you can donate a little bit to this, give some and give a lot. Thank you, Patricia. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
So I'd like to bring up Fennell Norton to start our next thing, because we have a special video we'll show later, because I know we have our Antoine Seawright is here. So I'll just leave it up to you, but that was something else to listen to Patricia about her community.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what Antoine thinks about this as we sort of zoom out bigger, because it's really nothing new. It's just sort of repeating itself. So we're not doing the video, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Okay, that's okay. Antoine, how are you? I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for making it here today.
Well, I'm glad to be with you all. And if I haven't said this already, let me say it to this group. Thank you all for being so transformational that you transform the Commonwealth of Virginia with a sweeping, meaningful election cycle at the end of last year. You all demonstrated what it means to be successful running a high-tech and a high-touch campaign with quality candidates up and down the ballot. And literally, the Commonwealth of Virginia is going to help change the direction of your country. You have been rewarded. Abigail Spanberger will give the Democratic response to the State of the Union next week. And quite frankly, because of the work of the Virginia legislature and the work this group has done, plus or minus some more, we're going to have some maps coming out of Virginia that's going to help offset some of the extreme overreach in other places. So you all are frontline, saving democracy, putting guardrails back in place. And I want to thank you for the work that you are doing, that you have done, and the work I know you will continue to do.
Well, thank you. Yay. So we want to thank you for what you do, because we keep watching you, because you the way that you talk about these issues is really important. And that's why we really wanted to reach out to say, can you come and talk to us? Because there is a lot of stuff going on that sometimes is hard to take. It's hard to wrap your head around it. So we did want you to sort of, broaden out how we're thinking about all of this, broaden out how we're thinking about ICE and what they're doing, broaden out what we're thinking about what's happening in Georgia. But before that, I know that you also had the opportunity to spend time with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I saw pictures and things like that. And I thought you might have a few words that you wanted to talk about his passing.
Well, thank you for that. I had the blessing of spending significant time with Reverend Jackson throughout the period of my political career and lifetime. A son of the segregated South, was separate and never equal, was always the order of the day, or the prescription that was given to those who grew up like my parents and grandparents. I think that Reverend Jackson exemplified what it means to be transformational, but also what it means to be consequential. He fought for racial justice, social justice, economic justice, but he fought for equity and equality. And he was certainly a very pivotal piece to the civil rights movement. I find it ironic on a number of fronts. One, that the same fights that Reverend Jackson had in his day are some of the same very fights we're fighting right now. I find it ironic that he was hope and change before Barack Obama talked about hope and change. Reverend Jackson represented it when he talked about I am somebody. Mm-hmm. When he's talked about keeping hope alive. I also find it ironic that he ran for president in 1984. He was allowed, or God allowed him to transition at the age of 84. I find it ironic that in a time period in which we are trying to exhaust, exterminate, whitewash history, here as we celebrate the contributions of Black Americans in the month of February, he transitioned in February, where the country and the world has been forced to uplift and to look back and reflect on his life and legacy. The other thing I find ironic is that the way Reverend Jackson transformed the Democratic primary. Before Reverend Jackson ran for president in 1984 for the first time, the way we chose delegates, or the way we chose our nominee, was winner take all. But because of Reverend Jackson's tenacity and his candidacy, we moved to a delegate system. So it went away from one person or winner takes all to the point where it allowed better competition in the ecosystem and allowed for future Black candidates like candidate Barack Obama to come along. So we're thankful for what Reverend Jackson has done. And I want to remind this group that the one thing about Reverend Jackson that we all should remember is that he did not get tired. Mm-hmm. He did not go weary on his journey. And that says a lot about a generation like my generation and future and other generations who seem to have political ADHD. We can't seem to focus on one thing very long. And so Reverend Jackson is the epitome of what it means to do that. And then lastly, seriously, if you're a younger person listening to this podcast, Reverend Jackson's life is a friendly reminder. When he started Operation Breadbasket out of the movement of Dr. King, Reverend Jackson was under the age of 30 years old. And it's a friendly reminder that every major successful social movement in the history of this country has always included young people under the age of 50.
Yeah, and you know what else is really interesting about that? They always had a mentor.
Mm.
And so Dr. King was his mentor. And we talked about this earlier, they didn't always see eye to eye. And so, but they were able still to come together to get real work done. And when it was time for him to break away, he was able to do that. And I think that's where we get a little bit lost today. People think that it's one or the other. But just like we talk about a multicultural country, we talk about diversity. When it comes to politics, diversity matters too. Diversity in age. And you, as long as you are not quitting and staying, as long as you are moving forward and making things happen, then we should be finding ways to work together. I want to ask you.
For now, if I can say two notes. That, for those who may be of the Christian faith, do not allow the GOP to frame themselves as God's only party. Reverend Jackson's life is proof that you can be a Christian, but also hold true to your values and fight for the things that matter to every single person in this country. And there was not a constituency in this country that Reverend Jackson could not speak to or identify with. That's why he was on tractors in Iowa, talking to voters in Iowa. He was in Lily White, New Hampshire. He was all over this country where he ran for president, garnering support around a working class agenda. And that is what we have to get back to in this modern day era of democratic politics, kicking A for working class.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So let's talk about that then, because I hear this often, and I don't know where you'll be on this, but when I think about working class America and I think about the voters that we're trying to outreach and talk to, I'm just going to say it. The Black working class people are voting for Democrats. It's the white working class people who are voting for Republicans. So where are we getting off in our message?
Well, I think we have to broaden our scope a bit. In the midst of when we separate ourselves, there's always been this viewpoint in this country that working class or Rust Belt voters seem to always mean white. And I think that's where we have to get it wrong. There's such thing as African American or Black working class voters. I think we have to communicate them. We also have to understand that while we all may be in the same boat, perhaps we came on different ships previously. And so we've got to be able to speak to white working class voters, and we've got to be able to speak to Black and brown working class voters, but remind them collectively that we're all in the same fight. We all want a decent wage. We all want good schools. We all want a good retirement. We want to be able to own a home. We want to be able to drive a car. We want affordable quality health insurance, and we want decent wages so that we can enjoy the things in life that previous generations could not enjoy. That's a message that should transcend and transform any class of people, working class, poor class, no class, or even people who identify saying they got too much class. Everybody wants the basic necessities in life. And I think we have to get back to our messaging points that reflect that. You know, the late, great Barbara Jordan said it this way: what people want is very simple. They want an America that is as good as it promised. That's what everybody wants. And it's such a powerful statement that the late, great Barbara Jordan once said.
So I get that. And I think that's absolutely right. My question then is, why is it that we are seeing so many people look at some of the horrible things that are happening in this country that we're all looking at and seeing? We're seeing what happened in Minnesota. We're seeing what's happening in Georgia with the voting. We're seeing all of this conversation right now about the election for 26 and what it will be and what it won't be. But we still have people who seem to be holding on to this whole, mass deportation and not really feeling that there is something deeper happening, something bigger happening with these detention centers all across the country. How are we getting people to pay attention that it's not just about, having food on your table, which we get that, but also about the morality and the humanity of the country?
Well, a few things. One, fear is a factor. Racism is a factor. Misinformation is a factor. Confusion, frustration, and anger are factors. When you look at the facts and you see what ICE is doing in Minnesota and across the country, let me just lay it out for you. The conservative Cato Institute conducted a study that says since October, 73% of those ICE have arrested have zero criminal history. Only 5% have a violent criminal history. DHS own reporting declared just a few days ago by way of CBS that of the 400,000 arrests, less than 14% have a criminal history. We've seen 12 people shot since September. We've seen 2 people executed on camera. We've seen them arrest a 5-year-old. We've seen them walk up into restaurants and homes without a warrant. We've seen them arrest a 1-year-old. We've seen them harass and embarrass American citizens, and we've seen them deny due process. Those are facts. What we have to do is push out the facts. They are not deporting the violent criminals that they tend to advertise. In fact, it's the total opposite. That's why this partial government shutdown and this fight around ICE is so critical, and it shows that we are not going to back down. The other thing that the Trump administration and these extreme Republicans want to do is they want to sow confusion into the ecosystem because it will force people to tune out. We as human beings tend to walk away from or go numb to things we do not understand. Unless the Friday Power Podcast Lunch keeps pumping out correct content and get others to join you in the effort, pumping out content to the crazies in the ecosystem that exists, we're always going to be in this state of play where people are going to believe the misinformation and walk away from the real information. And so with that being said, Virginia was successful because you all ran on an affordability message. The same thing in New Jersey, same thing in Georgia, same thing in Pennsylvania, across the country. That does not mean we can ignore the brutality that comes along with ICE. It does not mean we can ignore what's happening at the Department of Education, what's happening with Veterans Affairs, and all these other things, because different things are going to attract different people to the marketplace.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel exactly the same way, is that we have to figure out is Linda Hirshman was what I said, you have to make injustice public. And I think that's where our opportunity is, because everything doesn't make everybody feel the same way. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about the election that's coming up in 2026, just your thoughts about it, because there's all this tension in Georgia. They're probably going to end up changing some things in Georgia. They're focusing on 15 different places. All of them are places mostly of color. How should we be thinking about that? And I know what we can do in our space, but more broadly, how should the Democratic Party be thinking about that, and what we can do to impact it?
Well, we can't turn off the light to the notion that this president is teetering around with and flirting with the idea of trying to find a reason not to have an election. He's doing everything like saying he wants to nationalize the election, which is unconstitutional. States run elections. He's trying to force us to respond in the streets so that he can implement the Insurrection Act or martial law. He's trying to ask states, conservative states, to redistrict, to try to draw unfair maps. The old strategy, if you can't beat them, cheat them, to draw unfair maps, to eliminate representation. He's also trying to do what he did with Stop the Steal, sending his DNI director down to Georgia about ballots. We see him constantly attacking places of color, because he knows when Black folks vote, the tectonic plates shift in this country. He also understands that Black and brown people will make up the majority in this country and could be the majority in the next election. So he's trying to put fear. His allies and partners are doing the same with Steve Bannon, saying that we need to put ICE agents at polls and cops and military folks. And so we have to not go silent to the fact that that is a reality that they're trying to push. The other way we have to look at this election is one seat at a time. We as Democrats think of so big picture and wide picture that we think, well, we've got to look at the whole landscape or the whole playing field in order to think about this election. No, seat by seat is how we have to look at this election. In the same way we look at elections from a special election perspective. We won a ruby red, deep Republican seat in Texas with the equivalent of 4 million people, not because we looked at the whole map of Texas, but we looked at that specific Senate district and played our cards right. The same thing with the special election we won in Iowa, in the election in Miami for mayor and every other special election where we have outperformed the narrative and the expectation and winning in deep red Republican areas. And so we have to look at it from a very tight lens scope. We have to have a direct message. It's going to have to be high tech and high touch. And we cannot allow them to get us off our game when it comes to messaging. And we can't make assumptions about the electorate. Just because they don't like Republicans, Donald Trump, does not mean they love Democrats. So we have to talk about how bad they are, talk about what needs to be done, and how we offer both an alternative and an option to fix the problems in this country. And lastly, we have to set the game of expectations. Just because we win the House does not mean that we're going to undo everything Donald Trump has done. We will be able to cut his legislative presidency in half, but we will not be able to undo what he has done because he has the power of the White House. If we do not win the Senate, we certainly do not have as much power as advertised. That's why these local elections at the state level are important, school board, mayoral, city council, etc. And then we do what we can to win the House. We do what we can to win governor's races, secretary of states, and other statewide races, and then the Senate, of course.
So here's my final question. I know I'm running out of time. So here's what I'd like you to just sort of talk us through. So Catherine and I talk all the time about strategy, and strategy is really part of it is what is unexpected and how do you strategize and plan for that. And so we just would like, every time we talk about anything, we say, no one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. I get that. But still, at the end of the day, our actions that we can take are somewhat limited. It's getting the people out, getting to 3.5%, blah, blah. We all know that. But there is also some strategic actions that should happen at the top of the house, just like the Republicans are planning their strategic actions. So in terms of some of these things, like if there's an insurrection, like if they pull some, and we should be thinking about just about anything. Do we have and should we have and can we have confidence that the leaders are thinking strategically and planning about how they would react to all of these things?
Well, without telling you all the ingredients in the sauce, I would tell you the sauce will taste good at the top.
Okay.
Folks who are putting the ingredients in the sauce and making the sauce are some of the most skilled and most trusted voices and makers that we can have. I will also tell you that there's something called the rule of law that has consistently prevailed in this country in spite of the guardrails being taken off, like the ruling today on President's central economic tenet tariffs. This right-wing activist court ruled in favor of the people because Congress controls the purse. And so there is rule of law that I think will prevail in the end, but we are not taking that for granted because we've seen them disappoint us before. And so what we are doing is putting measures in place every step along the way, pushing the legal arguments every step along the way to ensure that we have a free and fair election, but also to make certain that the top issues that everyday Americans are facing, that they are being discussed and dealt with in a real way.
I heard somebody talk about sauce, so I decided it was time for me to come in. Antoine, that it is true. Like we all, what you're saying is always so great and concise, and to help us sort of, there's so much going on and coming at us, which is why it sort of does distract and people get sort of scatterbrained. But you really help us focus. And I think, strategically just focusing on what we can do right now in Virginia. We're doing the Yes campaign. We know there's another court case, and we're moving forward because we want to deliver 10 Democrats that can go to Congress and fight for us. So we're going to keep focused.
And Catherine, I'll say this very quickly. I know y'all are short on time. When you're having discussions and when you're talking to folks, always discuss the things that are non-debatable. You can't deny the fact that beef is up. You can't deny the fact that electricity is up. You can't deny the fact that corn is up. Everything. America's too expensive. Housing is up. Access to healthcare is up. 25 million Americans, 18.2 million Americans in red states. We're going to hit a serious healthcare cliff in March and April because people's coverage will expire and they will not have coverage. And so it's going to put real pressure on the system. When we get into these feeling arguments on social and when we're talking to people, we lose those. But when we deal with facts and we let the facts dictate the feelings, that's how we claw back, and that's how we win over independent thinkers and pissed off and frustrated voters.
I love that. And that's so true. And you see that happening in the economy, even with the report that came out, not so good as what they expected. And the thing that troubling is this, how far he's willing to tank America and credibility. So we have a lot of work to do when we're just talking about getting this country somehow back on track eventually. So thank you, Antoine, for being here. And I hope you can stay. I'll let you wrap up with Antoine while we move to, and I do want to say, Antoine Seawright, we have a woman running for office who is going to come up next. She is running in House District 37 from Florida. I know Maxwell Frost helped kick off her campaign. So I'm so glad you're here in the room with her to give her some kudos. And so we can flip her seat blue. So that's
I believe it. I believe it.
Believe it. All right. So yeah.
Yes.
So hope you can stay with us. Yeah, go ahead, Fennell.
Yeah, I was just gonna thank Antoine again, and I do hope that he can stay because I got more stuff. But this has been so helpful because it helped to clear my head because I was really getting a little bit worried about all the stuff was happening. So I'm happy to have some confidence that people really are thinking strategically about what can happen, what's the worst thing that can happen, and how can we approach it. But also really appreciative of the talking points because those are really excellent. You can't debate facts. Well, when you say it. You can't, when you put it that way, you're not just saying a number, but you're saying, is your corn more expensive? Is your beef more expensive? Is your coffee more expensive? You can't debate that. So thank you, Antoine.
Yeah, thank you. Remember our after chat. I didn't bring that up, but our after chat after 1 p.m. people stick with us because that's where the real conversation goes about it. So why don't you stay with me, friend? Do you want to stay with me or do you want to?
Sure, I'll stay with you.
Yeah, come on. Let's bring up our next guest. I'm really excited. This is very special. Jane Amon is here. She is running in Florida, House District 37. And our secret sauce, we talk about sauce. We love to flip seats from red to blue. Welcome, Jane Amon. How are you doing? Are you there? Got it?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be in Virginia again for the first time in a long time, actually. Which is exciting. It's a really exciting year.
Well, let me just talk to everybody in the room what's so special about Jane. Not only is she grew, her family is our neighbors or were neighbors, and they moved to Florida, but her kids went to school with my kids, graduated from Annandale High School. Woo! And Jane went on to get her doctorate. And I'm just so amazed that then recently I heard she stood up to run, and I'm like, oh, we got to get her on. And I know Leaders We Deserve, David Hogue is supporting you. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your background. You're a lecturer right now at the University of Central Florida. You're a longtime community organizer. Let's give us your background pitch, and then let's go into this race and why you're going to win it.
Yeah, so if you can believe it, I've actually been teaching for a decade now, almost a decade. And at different levels. So I've been in higher ed. I've also taught public high school as well. And I really got my start in the political space, actually doing reproductive rights organizing when I was in undergrad. So that's really kind of where my heart and soul is as far as like being a political organizer and grouping people together. But ultimately, the reason that I jumped into this race was because of my students and the things that I see them struggling with on the day-to-day and how hard it is to deal in public education in Florida right now, which I'm happy to talk about. And just knowing that like I am somebody, I just got married in May, like I'm going to want to raise a family in Florida, and I want it to be a space where everybody is welcome and where we want to, and where people would really want to stay and raise their family and feel seen and taken care of and that kind of thing. So that is a little bit about my professional background.
Well, what did you just?
I teach American literature, so when you talk about history being important to me, that's important to me.
Well, let's talk. Well, yeah, real quick, because the constraint on the Florida and the governor's race, and I know that I think David Jolly is running down there, but yeah, that you stepped up in Florida in the space. That's why I'm so glad you were raised here, and we sent you to Florida to change it, right? So that's exciting. But in the sense of this district, tell us about the district, and I think you said maybe Harris won that in the.
Oh my God, yeah. So that's the most exciting thing about this is that when we talk about this seat being flippable, it's actually one of the most flippable seats in the South. So it was separated by 468 votes in 2024, which was a historically terrible year for Democrats in Florida, in a district that Harris won. So it means that we actually have a registration advantage in that district. So this is our seat. It should be our seat we have the second largest university in the country nested in this district. There's no reason for it to be held by a MAGA Republican. So that's where we're going to get it over the finish line this year.
Yeah, I was going to say Lily Franklin, who won her House seat. It was really the students who really pushed her over. She did the most amazing grassroots program. I call it hand to hand with students at the university, and that really was a big deal. But I'm really interested in what your students are saying. What did they say to you that pushed you to the point that said something has to change it? Because I'm really curious about how they think.
Yeah, so there was actually a moment because as a teacher, you spend it feels like half of your time sometimes being a social worker in addition to being a teacher, even at the higher ed level, because I mean, people are struggling when you think about when you were young, right? You're getting out there, you're learning about like, how do I secure housing, and I'm working and going to school at the same time. And so I spent a lot of time with students, help connecting them to services. And the thing that really put me over the edge and started looking around and going like, how can I do better? How can we help? Was that I had a student email me and say, my parents have cut me off. I have bipolar disorder. I can no longer afford my medication and I'm scared. And Florida has not expanded Medicaid. So there are not a lot of resources for that. I was able to like work with the school and the community and try to get her connected to the spaces where she needed to go. But I just went like, we can really do better than this. I shouldn't have people contacting me and saying, I don't know where to go. I'm panicking. That's very serious, right? And besides that, I've had students who are struggling with lack of affordable housing and who have to work 2 jobs and also go to school, who are raising families, working jobs and going to school. I mean, it's just like there are so many ways that we can do better here that really, really kind of pushed me into that.
All right. Well, great, Jane. And so tonight, so folks in the room, you know what we like to do. We like to help candidates like Jane Aman. And tonight, actually, I'm going to go to a meet and greet fundraiser in the neighborhood, and people that are local are welcome to attend. It's going to be great because let me tell you, good food and drink at this thing. I know I'm looking forward to that tonight. But today, for people virtually, you could donate to Jane's campaign. I hope you will put some donations into her Act Blue link. And Jane, if you want to drop those in. So thank you so much for being here, Jane. Mm-hmm. Great to see you.
Yeah. And if you in the after chat, if you want to talk about like why care about Florida, right? Yes. Is that if you don't want Florida in your Virginia, we got to turn back Florida. You don't want alligator Alcatraz in Florida, we need to flip these seats, right? So this is a little bit of a campaign of get Florida out of my backyard here. So if you want to chat with me about that.
Yeah, I love it, Jane. Bring in the fire. We got to fight fire with fire. And yes, stick around for the after chat because Jane's going to be with us. So thank you so much. I love that you got to get that punch in at the end.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Got to have that authenticity.
I love it. Well, speaking of punching, Lady Liberty, let's bring up Robin Warner because, man, we're going to punch back. We're not going to have MAGA rigging. We have folks, look, we have this whole court case. We're just moving forward and we're fighting. So Robin, tell everybody about Vote Yes. What is it? And what are we doing about it in the grassroots?
Vote Yes is on. We elected fighters in the House of Delegates, and they gave us a way to fight back against MAGA cheating. We have a constitutional referendum to redistrict in response to what Trump asked Republican states to do. He said, can you give me some more Republican districts? And you know what? Of course, they did. So like California, we're saying not on our watch. So we are giving the voters an opportunity to decide, are we going to level the playing field and fight back? And in typical grassroots style, we didn't wait a minute to get involved. And let me just show you what folks can do to fight back in here. The amazing Dennis Orsinger made us a website that is worthy of fighting back. If you go to the virginiagrassroots.org, in the top right corner, there's a Vote Yes button, and this amazing website comes up with our mascot, Boxing Lady Liberty. She's our girl. And on this site, you find all the information you need. So for example, if you want to do something, we got you covered. Do you want to find out about events, donate, postcard, canvas, phone bank, sign petitions? Click of the button, you're there. Things are going on every single day. And there's more. What if you need graphics? Well, we got you covered. We've got our Vote Yes Party Pack that includes a different table sign, flyers, and all of that. Or maybe you want some Vote Yes graphics. We got that. But of course, our lady, Boxing Lady Liberty, we've got social media graphics. We also have Just Boxing Lady Liberty, and you're invited to make your own graphics with them. This is our gift from the Friday Power Lunch to you is Boxing Lady Liberty. In fact, the Democratic Committee in Gloucester, I always have trouble pronouncing that name.
Gloucester.
They're good. What? Gloucester, they're making barn signs with Boxing Lady Liberty. So I'm hoping this is putting ideas in your head that maybe you need Boxing Lady Liberty in your town on your billboard. Then we have postcard campaigns. And as you know, we are all about targeting. So we have one postcard campaign that's for rural voters with a postcard designed for the rural community and a message targeting them. We also have a postcard for women who voted early in 2025. We know that if you vote early once, we can get you to vote early again. Then we have other postcards. Reclaim Our Vote, our great friends there, they're doing postcards to Black voters. And then we're going to have general postcards. So you want to write postcards? We got you covered. And of course, we want to be on every street corner in front of every house. So if you want to buy individual yard signs, Rural Ground Game has them available on their site. If you want to get yard signs in bulk, Stare has you covered. There is going to be a link in the chat that you can fill out her form if you want to get groups of 50 or more yard signs. So, Catherine, did I do that? And it's only 101. But I will be in the after chat ready to answer your questions.
Well, what I want to say too is when we talk about events, and so, yeah, thank you, Robin. What I want to say is that use the Yes campaign to talk about the midterms, right? We know that the election is so important. The Yes campaign is just the forward, the first part of it, especially for Virginia. And so every opportunity you have, everybody in this room, wherever you go, bring your Fight Back pack with you. And that means you can just print out a flyer. Every opportunity you get if you're on a virtual show, ask for the floor. I'm going Friday tonight to Jane Amon's fundraiser, but guess what I'm going to bring? I'm going to bring the Fight Backpack with me because I'm going to ask Jane, could I have the floor for 2 minutes to talk about Virginia? Because I'm going to make sure everybody in the room understands what the Vote Yes campaign is. Everybody in this room, every personal thing you do and a social media post, just start spreading the word. We are the messengers. So, and I want to hand it to Fennell to follow up with that because I know you're doing a lot of stuff with the events and the nuggets.
Yes, so we are planning some, even though the weather seems to be warming up, but we're doing some soup and a story, which is really fantastic. It's just a way to get people in the community to come together so that you can talk about it and build a little bit of muscle around the campaign, because sometimes it is going to require a deeper conversation. So you want to get your friends and family and those folks who are going to be participating to get a little stronger in their knowledge about it. We're also creating nuggets. I've already ordered the first batch. I'll work on the next one so that they're really easy to hand out too, because just when you see people, you just give it to them and they've got something in their pocket that says Vote Yes. So there's just so much that we can do. Nothing's too small, nothing's too big. This campaign is so important. We just have to get every single person engaged.
I know, and there is so much news, and that's why the after chat is so important, because I'm going to say to you, we know it's crossover. There's what made it over in Virginia. That's such interesting topics to talk about cannabis and all the different things that passed. I can't wait to do that. But I want to say thank you to our guests today, and thank you for everybody being here with us. Patricia Bracknell, the founder and CEO of the Chamber of Hispanic Progress, Antoine Seawright, always bringing it, the founder of Blueprint Strategy, and our friend in the grassroots, and Jane Amon. I hope you guys put some money in her pocket for that. And I'm hoping to talk to Jane later to say, hey, who's writing postcards for you? Because I know people in this community and nationwide love to write postcards. But next week, we have Mark Pierce and Linda Allen, because we're going to celebrate 52 weeks of resistance. The Shenandoah Indivisible group will be here to talk about their story, and we'll celebrate that why persisting is so important. And we have some really special guests.
Yes, we do. We have a really special guest. Actually, Catherine, you introduced him to me on Substack. It's Explicit
Yeah, it
voice
became
of
your boyfriend.
yeah.
Okay, take another one, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, I took another one from you. It's Explicit, the voice of America, and he is a retired police officer. And I have to tell you, his writing is just superb. I call him the Black Heather Cox Richardson because everything is
It is.
documented so tightly. It's really complex, but it's really important things that we need to know. I always say he says the quiet part out loud. So I think you guys are going to enjoy hearing from him.
Yes, yes, we will. And so we do have a special Kennedy video. Maybe we'll show in the after chat a little bit, but because it's it's so wonderful to get the word out and when we use art and resistance, but we didn't have time today to show during the show. I want to thank everybody. Stay with us in the after chat. If you're a patron, thank you again for supporting us and being a member of our community. February has been a good month for us, and we've added all your names to the closing credits. And again, trying to think.
But I'll just end with a community is only as strong as its members. And you guys on the phone, you are our community and we are strong. We are definitely not grasshoppers. So just keep that in mind this week.
Oh, yeah. Subscribe, share our work, stay with us. So let's queue up the credits and we're going to go to the after.
And don't forget Sunday Night Lives at 7 o'clock.
Armchair Pundits, stick with us for 7 p.m. every Sunday night. We'll see you on the other side.